Today is about the unknown cause of your back pain and your sciatica. It's spondylolisthesis. When I say unknown, it's people have this problem and they don't know they have the problem, nor do they know what the problem is. And it's kind of a long word, it's a little confusing, and it means slipping of the vertebrae in Greek Latin. Not Greek Latin, but Greek and Latin. Why do we do this? Our goal is to educate you and give you tools so you make better healthcare decisions. We have an opportunity that is better than others for solving serious problems, and that's our goal, is to help you make best decisions. Today's Friday. So, typical spine looks like this. Head's here, the hips are down here, 24 vertebrae between the head and the hips. I want to help you better understand what spondylolisthesis is. Head's here, hips here, 24 vertebrae. The vertebrae are the bones. In between each bone there is a disc. The disc allows for motion of the vertebrae. Also, the disc allows for enough room in between each vertebrae for a nerve to exit off of the spinal cord. The spinal cord runs down through the inside of the spine, and in between each vertebrae there is an opening called the foramen. The foramen is where the nerves exit directly off the spinal cord. And very often, if you have sciatica, it's in this area of the foramen and the lowest part of your spine where the nerves get pinched. We talked about 5 different reasons you can have pinching of the nerves. One of those reasons is spondylolisthesis. Again, people have it, they don't know they have it. The question is, what causes it? Well, first of all, what is it? It's a slipping of the vertebrae. One slips on top of the other. And it's really where you start to either get advanced disc degeneration and advanced degeneration of the bone, or where the bones actually crack and things start to move. And there's different reasons. Number one is trauma. A lot of sports injuries. What happens is you get a little cracking of the bone, and then the vertebrae start to shift. They'll slip forward. As it starts to slip forward, it'll kind of do this thing here. And as it does that, it'll start to pinch the nerves. Now, again, trauma is where that bone can crack, but repetitive stress is doing the same thing. A lot of wear and tear. And what happens is the bones over time, as they wear and tear, start to crack a little bit. And then you get a little bit of that shifting. Poor posture. We've talked about posture. Good posture, all the weight is distributed evenly across the joints of both your neck and your mid-back and your low back. But very often what can happen is your posture can change. And when your posture changes and you lean forward a little bit, what it does is it overloads the low back. And it overloads the low back by 4 times normal. And your posture is enough to start to cause that change in the bone. And as it starts to change, the vertebrae will start to shift a little bit. And then there's also the degenerative cascade. And the degenerative cascade is really the repetitive stress, but it's over a long period of time. And as it starts to happen, the disc starts to degenerate. And as that disc starts to degenerate, it starts to load a little bit of the facet joint. And they start to degenerate. And then it starts to load the bone, and that starts to break a little bit. Or what happens is you sort of get that degenerative process and you get the natural shifting because of gravity over time pushing on that vertebrae, causing things to break down. Because really, it's that degenerative cascade that causes everything to start to break down. That slow breakdown process leads to the spondylolisthesis. Now, one of the things I said is we treat a lot of low back pain and sciatica. 20% of our patients that walk through the door have spondylolisthesis, and they have no idea they have it. Now, certain levels of spondylolisthesis we can treat, but the longer and the more shifting of that vertebrae as it goes forward, eventually it gets to the point where they have to stabilize it with fusion. But we can treat it before you get to that point. The goal is to get the vertebrae and the spine to hold in the proper alignment. So what happens is these bones start to shift. Looks like this. You get cracking of the back end of that bone, and what happens is the vertebrae starts to push forward. And as it starts to push forward, it pinches that nerve. And that nerve, when it gets pinched, will start to cause the pain that goes down the leg. And you get this sort of natural shifting. You can see these vertebrae are well aligned, and then you get down here, and this vertebrae is forward, this one's back. It kind of goes like this. That's the shifting. It's that change in the bone right here causing that shifting. Well, when you do that, that's when you get the pinching of the nerve. And that pinching of the nerve causes the pain that goes down the leg. So the sciatica, so you're going to have back pain because of the change in both the bone, but the change in the stresses on the disc. But then you're also going to get the sciatica, which is the pain that goes down the leg because the nerve is being pinched. We can treat this. We treat it without drugs. We treat it without surgery. We have the ability to get that vertebrae to shift a little bit better into a better position, free up the space where the nerve is, and then we reactivate all the muscles in the back to hold it in place. The key to what we do is taking the pressure off the disc, allowing freedom of the nerve, but then reactivating the muscles to hold it in place. Very often what happens, if it shifts even further, they end up doing what's called a fusion. Okay? We can get it better without drugs or surgery, but there are some cases where it's really advanced, where what they're going to do is they're going to put some screws into the body of the vertebrae. So they'll put screws right into the body of the vertebrae, and they'll put some rods in the back, and they'll hold it in place. And what they'll do is they'll pull it, if it's forward like that, they'll pull it back, and then they'll fuse it. And then they fuse it with the rods and the screws. Now, it's not uncommon when you have a fusion, you get a breakdown of the disc above and a breakdown of the disc below, and they break down 4 times faster than normal because of the change in the load. It's called above-below syndrome, where those discs start to break down. It's not uncommon. You can have a fusion, and then you start to have more advanced problems above and below. We talked about that yesterday. Why one of the causes of a herniated disc is this fusion causing the above and below syndrome. Okay, we have the ability to treat the spondylolisthesis before it gets too bad. We can prevent it from getting worse, which is the key. Okay, but if you've had the fusion because you have spondylolisthesis, we can treat the disc above and we can treat the disc below. We have the ability to solve these problems. What is the goal? The goal is to give you better education so you know what the problem is. The goal is to give you tools so you know what treatment is best for your problem. Because doctors are not obligated to publish their results. It's Friday. I'm done. If you like what you hear, I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can follow us on Twitter. We do videos every day, sometimes twice a day. And we're here to help you make better decisions. That's it. Have a good weekend. See you Monday.